You're on.
Good morning. It's Monday, February 5th. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for the town of Tuftonboro. Would you please honor America by standing and pledging? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. We'll start with public input.
Just curious, you don't have to answer now if you don't have the answer, but are you folks going to set up any special rules about, other than the state law, about campaign signs? And I'm particularly interested in being able to campaign up at the transfer station, so if there's any restrictions, I'd like to know what they are so I can abide by them.
I think as far as the polling place, that's up to the moderator.
Yes.
Well, no, I got that one, I know.
Okay.
I was talking about the transfer station.
We could be like Moultonborough and only allow one party to campaign at the transfer station. We'll have to choose the Republican Party. Whatever choices we like.
That really happened?
Yeah. The Moultonborough Taliban was working its way.
You're on tape.
I hope so. I hope there are people from Moultonborough watching.
Well, we have state laws, correct?
Actually, it's up to the selectmen where,
Okay.
if, we need to make policy, because each board of selectmen can change the policy. It was like putting signs on town property,
Right.
that sort of thing.
What are your wishes? Or is it something you want to think about?
So are you want to campaign up there or you want to put signs up there?
Well, I hadn't thought of putting signs up there. I didn't think that was appropriate unless it's allowed. If it's allowed.
In my opinion, I agree with you. It's not
Yeah.
appropriate to put signs up there, but
Yeah, but I certainly would like to be able to hang out up there and talk to people without interrupting.
Tradition.
Yes.
Gotta be able to campaign at the transfer station.
And if you tell me no objections other than to work it out with Clay, I'll do that. And if there's an issue, I'll come back and see it.
What are your wishes?
I guess my opinion is that that campaigning at the transfer station, as long as it doesn't interfere with the operation up there, or it doesn't, it isn't harassing to individuals, it is acceptable. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it.
Let Clay decide.
Yeah.
We're all reasonable.
Okay, and if something's cooking up there that you need to let me know about, please have somebody let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Dan Bisson, and my wife Lisa Cohen. We live on the corner of 80 Southern Road and County Road. We have been, before the selectmen in the past, regarding the safety of and the work that they had done prior to 2010 on the drainage. When we came back here, we found that the drainage had been diverted onto our property, which then was actually eroding our property. Since that time, when we addressed the board, immediately Jimmy Bean and his crew came in and they fixed the problem. I'm very appreciative of the workmanship that they did in correcting it. However, that was one concern. Our second concern was that since the upgrading of that road, they've never posted a sign, a speed limit on that sign. Sunquist made a comment to us that if it's a dirt road and it's not posted, it's automatically a 30-mile-an-hour road, which I defy any of the law officers in this town to agree with that. They would not. 15 miles an hour is a reasonable speed for county road. Are you all familiar where I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Is this the,
This is the seasonal part of County
okay, the
Road.
section, the Sodom Road end section, so you're in the brown house there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And
And
how do you know it's 30 miles an hour?
well, her comment to us is that any town, any road in the town of Tufton Road that is not posted, it's a 30 mile an hour. Bill Stockton, he spoke up and said that County Road is definitely not a 30 mile an hour road. I have spoken to some of the law enforcement here, and they would agree that 15 miles an hour is a reasonable speed. The issue that has arose lately is over the past 4 to 6 weeks, there has been a employee of Community Landscape that has taken it upon himself to plow County Road, therefore causing a great deal of danger for my wife and I trying to pull out of our driveway onto County Road to pull out. So our driveway comes in on County and back out on the Sodom. It's a loop. But when he plowed that, he created two issues for me. One, he created a snowbank in both sides of my driveway, and which my wife couldn't get out. And second, after it thawed, it was nothing but a sheet of ice. And there's been 2 vehicles, both within our property line on both sides of the road. We own both sides of the road that have gone off the road and into the ditch, and it's just becoming a continuous safety hazard for my wife and I.
And that came up at the last meeting we had with Jim Beam,
Right.
Yeah.
that somebody had plowed County Road
And Lake Pond Road, yeah.
yeah.
The young man gave me his name. He was actually passed out behind the wheel in the middle of Sodom Road. I was in my house. I watched him come down the road, and he had done this the week prior to it when I wasn't home. My wife saw him, and he did the same thing. He was passed out behind the wheel. Hence the problem, as you can see, that it's nothing but a sheer ice. This is used for people like,
Driveway.
yeah, and that's our driveway. Anybody coming down County Road, we have a problem in the summertime because people there is no sign speed posted for speed, so they come down at whatever speed they so desire, which in several cases we've had incidences of getting T-boned trying to pull out of our driveway. So we're asking the town to
Boost the speed.
we're asking the town to either to prevent the further actions of individuals taking it upon themselves to plow County Road would be during the December 10th to April 10th no maintenance statute. They put some sort of barrier so that it can't be for our safety, and then in the springtime or summertime, if not only they could post the road, but if by putting a, like I call a speed bump prior to our property, just before our property, which actually would act as 2 things. One, it would divert the water if it was diverted to the other side where they put the culvert in, so any of the water coming down County Road would hit this so-called speed bump, but it would divert the water into the drainage that they created to keep that road from washing out. And 2, it would protect us from people coming down County Road at a rate of speed that they shouldn't be traveling. And I've done from New Road, bottom of County Road to New Road, and on several occasions, and I've gone down New Road to Sodom, Sodom to County, and have timed it, doing the speed limit. And if you do the same thing, come up over County Road, do the speed limit, and I take it from the top where it turns to dirt at Joan Gales, and I do 15 miles an hour, there is no time saving. The problem is that people don't abide by the speed limit, and they're causing, safety concerns for people that not only live on the tar part of County Road, and Clay has voiced his concern. We had problems with a young man, and the town took care of it. They addressed it with the young man, and he subsequently was taken before the Concord board for license issues regarding so many tickets and speeding was the main thing. So, I guess.
Could you give your name and address and information to Karen, and she can have the road agent and the
Yeah,
police chief contact you?
yeah,
There is an established procedure, I don't remember exactly what it is, for posting a lowered speed limit. We did that on Black Pond Road. It has to do with I think we have to do a traffic study, the police have to do a traffic study and that sort of thing before we do it. But in my opinion, a lowered speed limit makes sense on the seasonal part of County Road for sure.
the problem isn't when there's gonna be an accident, the problem, the problem is gonna be when. Because, and I'm talking about in the summertime, it's barely two passable lane. I'm certainly not promoting that they make it any bigger from the time that we bought the property back in '93. You know, basically the only people that ever went up that road were guys looking for deer. And subsequently, they've upgraded the road and made it bigger and larger, and more people have been using it. But I do know that it's used that, people think it's a shortcut, but it is if you're not doing the speed limit. So it's actually promoting a behavior that, is not, conducive upon.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Spring.
Yeah, I have reported it, both incidents
Excuse
were
me, sir,
reported.
we're
Yep.
running a little
Yep.
bit late.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to
No,
shut you
I
up.
understand what's going on.
Just trying to be a moderator and move things
Yep.
along.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, good to see you again. We have a 9:10 appointment, Chris Fournier, HOD. Come on down.
Sure. All right, Karen asked me to come in and talk about the recently submitted proposal or contract amendment that we provided to provide bidding assistance and
That's this.
construction administration services for the Sodom Road Bridge.
Right.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So you provided us with an estimate, an estimated range of a cost to repair the bridge and restore it to full load-bearing capacity. And the only way we're going to get from that wide range of estimated cost to something that's a real number is we got to put it out to bid, right?
Yes.
And what you have done is you gave us a proposal for the administration of the bid process. Is that correct?
And the construction.
And the construction of the. And so we're talking.
Yeah, it's shown better.
It's like, the bidding assistance is like $6,500.
Yep.
Construction administration is estimated at $6,000 to $8,000. And one of the things in projects we've done in the past, and I think, correct me if I'm mischaracterizing this, we've used a third party to do the oversight on projects. Somebody that's not the company that did the engineering, nor the company that's doing the work, but a disinterested third party that engineer that verifies and monitors and verifies that all the work is being done to the project specification to meet the state's requirements. And your proposal is that you would do not just the bidding assistance administration, whatever you want to call it, but also the administration, the oversight of the construction work.
Yes.
And this board has talked in our previous meeting, which is why you're here talking with us today, about our experience and belief that having a third-party engineer do the oversight of a project has some benefits in terms of keeping us all honest, if you will. So maybe you can fill us in a little bit more on, I mean, my recollection is that, in your opinion, having a third party do the administration of the contract is not a good idea. Is that?
No, I mean, I guess this is the first I hear of it.
Okay, all right. Well, and again, that's why we
Sure.
wanted to have the conversation.
Sure.
The next step now is for us to get the project out to bid and to get get proposals in, so we know what we're going to be dealing with. Once we have that in hand, and we award the project after it's approved at town meeting, then we need to engage somebody to monitor the project as it's going forward, make sure it's being done in compliance with the design work that your firm has done and the state's requirements. And any issues that come up can be then raised and dealt with. And I know last project that we did, that you guys engineered, that's exactly how we proceeded. Third-party engineer monitored it. There were some issues that came up. There was conversation. As I remember, you folks were engaged in the conversation, and there were some adjustments that were made to the specification or okayed substitute material or some such thing. My memory isn't crystal clear
Sure.
here, but there was some ongoing involvement of the town, the monitoring engineer, and your company to get the project done in a way that met the state's requirements and dealt with issues that came up as the project progressed, and gave us a good result in the end. So I guess my question, and I apologize, I don't mean to be monopolizing the floor, is we're at a point where we want to go forward and get proposals to do the project. And we would like to engage your company to run that part of the process, what you call the bidding assistance phase. Once we have the proposals in and we're ready to go forward with the project, we may or may not want to use HEB to monitor it. We may want to go with a different, a disinterested third-party engineer to monitor the project. But
Well,
I
there's management and then there's monitoring, in my mind.
okay.
So it's not unlike a developer that's gonna build a road. You get hired by the town, make sure the road's built to specs, but you don't actually engineer the road. You don't actually oversee the building of the road. You just make sure it's built to specs and the town's satisfied. And I think what Bill's trying to get at is there are two aspects to this. One is the day-to-day operation of the repair, and you design the repair. And the other is a third-party monitoring of the quality and the compliance of that repair. And our feeling is we need to, bifurcate those two things rather than having one. So is it that we hire HEB to put it out for bid, and then we hire HEB to do the compliance? Or do we hire HEB to do the management? But we gotta have two sets of eyes looking at it, because we're not engineers.
Sure, yeah.
And you can make a deal with the guy building the bridge that that's okay, and we don't have any idea what's going on. So
Yeah.
we need a little bit more comfort level.
Yeah, I guess I disagree with that part, because it's like, that would be a complete violation of our code. of
No, I'm not
ethics.
saying you do
You know,
that. I'm just saying, I just remember when we were doing a project at the county of the third party rejecting 1,000 yards of fill. The contractor wouldn't have, the engineers might not have, but that third party did, and they had the ability to reject that to make sure its compaction rates were correct, for instance. So it just gives another layer of protection for the money spent. And so it's either, and I'm not gonna monopolize this either, but it's either hire you under the conditions of this contract and then hire somebody else to make sure you did the job right, or change this contract to reflect that you engineered it and put it out to bid, and now you're gonna be the party that makes sure it's done to bid. But there's another day-to-day operation, of clerk of the works, or whatever you wanna call it. That $6,500 fee goes somewhere else. That's sort of what the direction that this conversation's taking.
Yeah.
Disabuse me of anything.
Sure, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're here for the town, so I mean, it's in our best interest to work in your best interests. Not only for this project, but for the potential of future projects and our reputation. So we go around and talk to the past municipalities that we've worked for, our reputation is spot on. So I hope that's of some comfort. This project is a little different than, maybe a bridge replacement project is a cleaner process where that third party process would be more suitable. But the repair is so intertwined with the construction observation of interpreting. When we look at the bridge now, it looks like the last 4 feet of that beam end needs to be repaired. But once they start removing material, there needs to be, an educated person on site that can realize that repair needs to extend to 5 feet. Or maybe that repair doesn't need to go as far, and money could be saved to the town. So the design, of what we can see today and the limits of repair needed, is what we've already prepared, but there will be, with the nature of our in-kind repair, there will need to be adjustments to the field, which causes adjustments to our design, and then causes, basically, when all is said and done, someone needs to submit a load rating to the state to say that the bridge is capable of load capacity. Now that's part of our design, but we can only be so confident as what's executed in the field. So if that person in the field doesn't realize that extra concrete repair may need to be done, then that load rating may or may not be valid if we're not properly informed or involved in the process. So this one's not as clean, being that repair. So you mentioned state requirements. I mean, as far as I know, there's no tangible state requirements as this. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the state always has requirements, okay? That's not to say that there's a specific this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
But how does a bridge get a load rating? I mean, it's engineered for that load rating, and the engineering work is stamped by a PE, right? And we follow good design practices and that whole thing. And I'm not suggesting there are any special regulations of the state, but when all is said and done, we want the project to be recognized as being done correctly, and restoring the bridge to full load carrying capacity, and we will then have a bridge that will carry weight for some period in the future. And obviously, we'd like it to be as long as it can be, which kind of goes back to what you're saying about as they get into the work, making sure that anything that's uncovered, that the engineering work is, takes that into account and is adjusted as required.
And this is a little different in that we were kind of under the gun. I mean, one of the sticking points is that this is never going out to bid. We're the only game in town. I'm uncomfortable with that.
Sure.
Because we're spending the public's money. That said, it's not as if we've got the leisure to spend another year working this out, putting the bid process out for engineering and then the bid process out for the rest of it, because we do need to get that load rating back up as soon as possible. So having said that, I guess my only suggestion would be, how do we put a control in this? I mean, I can see HEB's position, and it's a valid position.
Yes.
How do we bring a comfort level to the oversight? Do we bring in another engineering company for, I don't know.
Well, and again, it may be this is a different enough animal than some of what we've done in the past
Yeah.
that having HEB do whole soup to nuts on it is absolutely the
Only way to go.
the right thing to do. You know, in a typical project, you're going to run into some things in the field that are a little bit different. But where this varies from a road reconstruction, I guess in my mind, I think what you're saying is that the end result is so much determined by the condition that's uncovered as the project is progresses, as the contractor gets into the work and begins to remove the deteriorated material and get into the middle of it, that your engineer really needs to have his eyeballs into what's going on to verify that what's being done meets your previous view of what the problem was, that it's no more extensive, no less extensive, and that if there's some variation that has to get done, that the design gets adjusted expeditiously and keeps the project going.
Yeah, ultimately, as the engineer of record, I will be stamping the Form 4, and I need the confidence to know that the repair was done as it needed to be done. That corresponds with that Form 4 load rating. Sorry.
I guess I'm persuaded with this project that this is the approach to take.
I think I am as well, and I don't want you to think that we're questioning your veracity. I mean, it's only the expenditure of public money, in my mind, needs a few steps, and this one doesn't have one of those steps. I think it is a different enough animal, as Bill put it, to require what we're doing, to try to get this bridge back in line.
Are you prepared to make a decision today?
I am.
And
How are you,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
yes, I agree with what you gentlemen
All
said.
right, so I will move approval of contract with HEB for bidding assistance and construction administration of the repair to the Sodom Road Bridge.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more comments? I have a couple questions.
You're the chairman, sir.
Okay, this is for his firm to put it out to bid, because we need that bid in time for town meeting, correct?
Yes.
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay. It does not include whoever is the project engineer or whatever the proper verbiage is. Am I correct?
No.
Well,
It's going to include HEB through the project.
right. So it will include the construction administration, but obviously that will only happen if the project is approved and goes forward.
So there's two monetary amounts in that contract.
There are,
And
yeah.
would you review them for me?
Sure. So the bidding assistance will include the lump sum cost of $6,100 and an estimated reimbursable expenses of $400, which is a total of $6,500 estimated. And the construction administration is our services on an hourly basis in accordance with their fee schedule, and the estimated cost of that would be $6,000 to $8,000 to do the construction administration, and that would be part of the project that would be approved
And for,
on the warrant.
and for purposes of warrant article, what is your suggestion or motion as far as the total price to be included in the warrant?
I would add $8,000 to the warrant article, and we've already made a provision in the operating budget to cover the bidding assistance
The
part.
6,500.
Right.
I support that, but I have a question for him. The warrant article, you gave a range. It's not as bad, it's good weather, the steel company doesn't go on strike. And then it was, if it falls in and we have to do it in the worst weather possible, and we cut it right in half. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Am I putting you on the spot? If
No,
I
no,
am, I apologize.
We're here to talk.
Yes.
I think the intent right now is to bid the project prior to town meeting.
So we have a real number to go to
No.
town meeting
If
with.
you're able to amend that amount on the town floor as those bids come in.
Absolutely.
Yes, we can.
Then that's exactly what you should do there. Then you know what it is.
It's my understanding we can do that.
Sure.
Okay, I've answered all the
And
questions.
we're only obligated to HEB's fee schedule. So if the bid comes in at $200,000 and we decide, forget it,
That's right.
we don't owe HEB any of that other $8,000.
That's right.
That's
Because there's no project
That's only if the
administered.
project's being completed.
Correct.
The,
Yep.
okay, the other highways and streets, we increased the operating budget by 6,000, not 6,500.
Okay,
So we would change this.
so we ought to increase that to, the estimate is $6,500 to do the bidding administration. So yes, I think we ought to bump that up another $500.
Does it make sense for anything connected with the bridge to go from the warrant article, so it can only be spent on the warrant article? Or do
We
something?
have to
Well,
get, this part.
This part, we're gonna
to get
spend the
bid.
money, so we have to include it in the operating budget. Now, the actual execution of the project, which includes the work by the contractor and the monitoring and certification by the engineer, is gonna go to town meeting as a part of the article on the warrant. So that piece, as a total piece, will be voted up or down by town meeting.
Karen, is all that clear in your minutes?
Yes, thank you.
Is there any other discussion from the Board of Selectmen?
Okay, so we're gonna revisit the operating budget.
Add another $500, yeah.
Okay, so we're currently voting on these two items that are in the HEB proposal.
Right.
Yes. And that, are you clear?
Yeah.
You clear? Have we missed anything that's not clear?
No, we just have to, I mean, the timing is pretty tight
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
to get a bid
Yeah.
and get those bids back in time. So there are gonna be some rapid decisions
Yeah.
about
Would you,
timing.
what is the
Should we vote?
motion that's on the floor? Does it include a dollar amount?
Yes, I have, yep.
Would you read it, please?
Selectman Marcuson moved to approve the contract with HEB for both bidding assistance, $6,500, and construction administration, $6,000 to $8,000 for the Sodom Road Bridge repair. Seconded by Chip for discussion. The bid is to have the bidding done in time for town meeting. The contract includes HEB as the project administrator. The construction administration costs will be included in the warrant article.
Clear? All those in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Anything else from the board? Anything else from you?
Should we sign this and so we can go back to work?
Yeah, that's right. We'll sign it and send Chris off to
Yeah,
get the process going today.
yeah, so who is my primary contact to get the details of this contract together?
Would it be Jack? He worked on the Lang Pond Road.
Jack?
Yes.
You got a minute?
You're not busy.
You have to initial each page, right?
So HEB is gonna do the bidding for the Sodom Road Bridge repair. And Chris's question is, who's his primary contact here?
For,
Any questions as it relates to the bidding package and that?
Yeah, there's plenty of requirements that we need to develop as part of the construction contract that's put out to bid. So timing of the construction, duration of the construction allowed, liquidated damages for not meeting those schedules.
I mean, do you have a time frame in mind of when it should be done? Time of year, or, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, that's up for discussion. I don't know if you want this discussion to happen now or.
I mean, that should be in the bidding
Does it need to be
documents.
in the RFP?
I would think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Jack is our contact there, and, we need to, I guess my view on repairing the bridge is we would like to do it as soon as it makes sense to do it. I mean, the load rating is, it's been derated, and we want to restore it. As earlier conversations have gone through with respect to what the cost of getting it done is, and one of the things you identified as a potential impact is the timing on it. So if it's going to cost us twice as much to get it done in April as it is to get it done in July, I guess my feeling is that that delay is not worth spending the extra money on.
Yeah, that's an unknown at this point.
Right.
And it isn't as if we're creating the wheel here. I mean, I'm sure you've done projects like this before.
Yes.
So I think if you send normal operating conditions to Jeff, and then we come in on Fridays, it seems every Friday, and review and sign checks, and we could certainly go through all the conditions that we need to throw at this thing.
So I mean, the big question is the timing of the contract. Either the town can specify the dates to
Right.
complete, or we can say it needs to be completed within 30 days, start to finish, or whatever date range that,
Right.
number of days that might be throughout this range of dates as it fits into the contractor's schedule. That would allow you the most cost.
Right, which is what we did with Lang Pond Road when we put that one out, as we said, this is when we want it completed, and the contractor must do the work within an X number of day period from when he starts to when he finishes.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me, is to provide the scheduling flexibility, but you don't want the thing opened up for the whole summer either.
It's gonna be the road's gonna be closed.
And you're gonna do signage and all that in the contract and all that.
Yes.
It isn't like you can open up one lane and
Exactly. No, it's not worth it on that small budget.
Anything else on this topic, on this contract? Thank you, Chris.
Great.
While we're,
And so
Jack. Yeah.
Jack is a contact, and if he doesn't have an answer, he's going to be beating on us to make sure we get the information.
Okay.
And at this point, as you indicated, time is of the essence in terms of getting it out to get proposals back. So I guess, as far as I'm concerned, if this board needs to get together at any point in time to answer questions, then let us know, and we're constrained that we've got to notice it 24 hours in advance, but that's You know, other than that, yes, we sign checks on Friday, but let's say, for instance, 2 days from now, you have the information pulled together and you need verification from us. I'd like to think that we can get together within a day or so, not say, oh, we'll wait till the end of the week. Again, we're trying to
Just push it out.
now that we've gotten our questions answered and got this thing signed, now we want to all systems go and do everything we can to get the information before March 13th, 14th.
Okay, well, thank you.
Very good.
Just a point of order, folks, does it make sense that while we have the paperwork in front of us, we modify the
Yeah, let's do
actual
it.
pages?
Yep.
Thanks.
Good luck, sir.
Yes.
Travel safe.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
In the notice.
This is from Bill. Go.
Thank you.
So I move that we reopen other highways and streets, 4313. To add an additional $500 to increase the grant total to $13,000.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Match up with your right now? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Good questions there, guys. Nice job. Let's move on to review and approval of minutes. The first one is January 22nd, Selectmen's meeting. I'm all set.
I don't have anything.
I'll move we accept the minutes as recorded.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. The second set is Monday, January 29th, Selectmen's work session. I have nothing. Another nice job the way you highlight the,
I'm all set.
is there a motion?
And so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Let's move on to signature file. Under review, everyone's read the blue file, that's just the building permits. The first is notice of appointment for Kim Reed for the vacancy of Agricultural Commission. Term expires June 2021. Is the expiration date okay? I have a question mark.
Because it's longer than 3 years.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how you wanted to handle that. Because I have everybody expiring in June now, like it's kind of on a cycle, so I wasn't sure.
June 20.
Yeah, I guess I would say that it ought to be June 2020.
Okay.
Then we don't end up with any term longer than 3 years, even though it's only 3 years and 3 months.
Can we just send it back to be retyped, or can you
It's up
fix
to you
that?
unless you want to put a line through it, and it's up to you. I'm
Okay.
sure it's fine either way.
I move we amend this to read June 2020 and move acceptance.
I'll second.
All set? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is just for the official record. This is reference Tufton Borough property assessments to all Tufton Borough property owners. This letter shall serve as formal introduction to the town assessor, Rod Wood. Mr. Wood will be performing field work on the behalf of R.B. Wood and Associates, the town of Tufton Borough's contacted assessing firm. The Board of Selectmen would appreciate your consideration in allowing Mr. Wood to do the necessary work to assure you a correct and accurate assessment. Please feel free to request Mr. Wood's picture identification. Additionally, Mr. Wood's vehicle is a 2013 black Toyota main plate 1993 T. Tom Y. Young. Mr. Wood and his vehicle are familiar to the Tufton Borough Police Department, the Board of Selectmen, and town office employees. Do not hesitate to call with any questions or comments. The Selectmen's office is 5439 extension 10. The police department is 8695. Okay to sign this?
Yep.
The next item is from Rod Wood, the contracted assessor, and this is a land use change tax for property tax map 65-3-7 on Middle Road. The applicant seeks an abatement to be removed from the current use.
For what purpose?
The corrected, let's see now, needs to be, the amount of acreage that needs to be removed is the actual area that has been disturbed by excavation. In this case, it is 0.5 of an acre, not the 2 acres previously reported. A corrected current use map has been provided by the property owners. The tax use abatement is in the amount of $3,750. Needs to be granted. Have you read this?
Wait.
Hmm?
So they want to take property out of current use? Or are we abating some tax that's already been put on the land?
The 2 acres was taken out of current use for excavation instead of a half acre where the excavation's taking place. So the tax was assessed on that 2 acres instead of.
But you can't take a half an acre out of current use. The only way you can take land out of current use is in a zoning configuration, so I'm not gonna vote for that.
Do you want to sit down with Rod and clear it up with him?
He's here today if you'd like me to grab him.
Yeah, I think we ought to have a chat with him, just to make sure we're all on the same
Or
page.
why don't I wait 30 seconds, see if he's available?
Where is this land, Middle Road?
Yeah, Whitten.
So they didn't create an, wait till it comes in, I'm sorry.
So he had to leave for an appointment and he won't be back. Sorry.
Okay.
We just missed
He won't go back, okay. I move we table this.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, it doesn't seem as though they created a lot. So I'm not sure what, and the excavation area is certainly larger than 2 acres.
Sure.
But we'll see.
Okay. Next item is new business. Okay, and next is budget review. I think one of them involves Adam. Chief? We're moving on to budget review, long-term bonds and notes. Is that one of the things you were curious about?
Yes.
Okay, welcome. Who wants to begin? Do we want Diane in to have a conversation with us?
I can update you if you'd like.
Why don't you begin?
Okay, maybe, and then if you have something else. So my understanding from DRA is that the ambulance and rescue vehicle from 2006, that were a warrant article in 2016. As the payment is raised and appropriated each year, it should be a warrant article each year for the term of the agreement, because it contains an escape clause. With that said, it got missed last year, and this year it got caught, and so it's been removed from the budget, which you have these new sheets now, and put into a warrant article.
Okay, so we just have to back the approximately $90,000 out of the budget.
Right.
But
And
it
put it,
wasn't,
put it into an article.
Which you have a draft of in your paperwork, yep.
So, interest long-term bonds for 4721.
And then 4711 as well.
What about the fire station?
That's approved.
No, I have a question.
I think that, I can ask Diane, but I think that's because it's a building and didn't contain an escape clause.
That was approved by a supermajority at town meeting.
Yeah,
That's
building,
right.
yeah.
And a supermajority can commit the town to
long-term finance.
long-term expenditures in the future. My understanding is the reason you've got to take the lease payments out of the operating budget is because the lease payments are approved on an annual basis for the term of the lease. And given that DRA wants it to be a specific article on the warrant that's dealt with, not just part of the operating budget. Right.
That's the escape clause.
Yeah. So that's, town meeting's escape is to vote that down. Now, I guess in my view, a rational town meeting, recognizing that if we vote not to pay the lease this year on those vehicles, then the vehicles are gone, and the money that we put into them and everything else at this point disappears. So the benefit that we've accrued and paid for, we have nothing left from. But that's why they want the escape clause item as a separate article on the warrant. Is that correct?
Yep, you summarized it well.
Do we have any literature on this?
I don't know if Diane does, I would ask her.
Yeah, that was my
No,
question is it
I'm-
in writing?
Yes, I'm going to go back to when I was on the budget committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but this isn't your first lease vehicle, is it?
No, they've missed it since 2005.
Okay, back then, the escape clause was added, and it was recommended so that if the town votes to, for whatever reason, they do away with this fire truck, and it does happen places in the United States, that the escape clause protected the vendor.
I have no idea. I know that at town meeting it was asked if escape clause was included in the whole thing, and then it was on everything that we have
Well, I mean, the
we've
basic,
done.
the things you're dealing with are, if you are indebting the town for more than a 3-year term of a selectman, you gotta get a supermajority anyway. But in addition to that,
Should we write it?
it's protecting the seller.
Yes, because as I remember, I went back to my notes when I was chairman of the budget committee, it protects the seller so the town can't say, this is a piece of junk. You know, we're 3 years into a 5-year lease and we're just gonna renege on the note. And it prevents him and the town of replacing it with a similar type vehicle or an alternate vehicle.
Well, plus from the
But I'll do it every year.
capitalism works strange things when it comes to leases and corporations, but I think, I don't see what is the purchase option at the end, $1 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, for all intents and purposes, a purchase, it's just in the form of a lease. So we're building equity as we go.
Absolutely. which is what brings me back to the, if town meeting votes the lease payment down, then we're done. Then that equipment
It's gone.
is gone.
But it also
It's-
gives us the opportunity to say, you know, I don't like this tax shit, so I'm gonna get the town to vote $300,000, we're just gonna pay the lease off today.
Now, there was one piece of equipment that we actually paid off, what, a year and a half ago, correct?
Yeah.
And saved the interest. It
You
was-
don't save a lot of interest, but a lot of it's just psychological.
Yeah.
You don't like that, you know?
Was there some paperwork?
She'll be right in.
Okay.
Yeah, she was just finding it.
Anything else?
So
While you're here?
4721, we're talking about both of those, 4711 and 4721. Combined
Removing the ambulance and rescue vehicle
for both.
principal and interest payments from the operating budget and placing them.
Is there a motion on
And
long-term bond and notes? We're gonna have to change the last column, next to last column, correct? Are you ready to vote on that?
Well, I think there was
2
a,
seconds.
there's a question we're waiting for
Okay.
Diana on, right?
Yes.
So we can make a motion and leave it open.
Yep. Open to
So I'm
discussion.
gonna move that we reduce the line 4711, 02 from $82,843 to 0. Changing the long-term bond total from 236,554 to 153,711.
Yep, 234,501 I have 501.
That was last year. That was last year.
554.
Okay, you're going by this total here.
Well, he's going by what we approved already, which you don't have in front of you because she pulled it off.
I will second that for purposes.
Even though you don't have it read yet. Trust. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. And it's open for discussion.
Here she comes.
Can you, I'm sorry, Chip, can you repeat that? That was the 40, the, I didn't have that.
4711,
Yeah. 02,
02,
711, yeah. Or the whole thing.
82,843 becomes 0.
82,843.
That's line 2. Line 3 goes from 236,554 is reduced to 153,711.
Okay, thank you. I understand now. Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome. Always something interesting, isn't there?
Hold on a moment.
Yeah. Why don't you review what you have for information?
Article 5, purchase new fire truck. This is how I found out about the rescue and the ambulance. She was in the process of reviewing that warrant article for the 5-year lease and with the escape clause, and it was at that point. She said, this lease contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual, oh, wait a second. I have to back up this one, please. This lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. My question was, can the future payments be included in the operating budget under accounting number 4711 and 4721 for interest rather than a separate warrant article? Her response, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. And then she goes on to say, for full transparency, because the lease contains an escape clause and only requires a majority vote for passage, this type of lease agreement should be brought in front of the voters for their authorization. When a lease agreement does not contain an escape clause, the understanding is that it binding future meetings. The understanding is that it binds future meetings and will be included in the operating budget, which is why it requires a 2/3 ballot vote for passage. And then she goes on to say, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. She's being repetitious. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. So I responded, okay, good to know. Then why are you not approving this warrant article as written? I was waiting for her to approve it. Also, the town of Tuftonboro has another 5-year lease note that is in its 3rd year. I will have to notify the selectmen about placing another warrant article to appropriate funds to make the note payment in April. Then she responds again, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. Now, I've already read this, but she's just saying it again. Then she says, oh, because I did respond back and said, well, are you going to approve this warrant article for the fire truck? And then she says, there is nothing wrong with the warrant article wording. I was just providing technical guidance on lease agreements with an escape clause or without an escape clause. It was informational guidance. She did eventually approve the fire truck warrant article.
So this is Article 5 is something we're gonna have to explain at town meeting, but this is gonna come forward every year for 5 years, just as Article 11. I think that's the 11, right? No,
No,
it's
Article 16.
16, right. That's all right, fine.
So she is saying yes to the most recent pieces of apparatus that were purchased, correct?
The ambulance and the rescue.
And what else is she saying yes to?
She's saying that we have to put it, like the fire truck, this is a 5-year lease with an escape clause, so that also has to go.
The new fire truck?
Yes. Every year, moving forward, we need to appropriate the payment each year to make a note,
This is something new, correct?
Well,
It's a different interpretation than we had in the past. I understand the rationale for it because
Yeah.
the whole idea about an escape clause is that we can decide not to do it. And the way town meeting decides not to do it is they vote against a particular expenditure. And the only way they can vote against a particular expenditure is if it's singled out by itself. Because somebody at town meeting can adjust the total of the operating budget, but town meeting cannot adjust the internals of the operating
They
budget.
don't have line item veto.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and there's also a different, the vote is 2/3 versus majority.
yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you need 2/3 of a vote on the ambulance and rescue.
No,
No,
no.
Okay.
you need a majority
You
on
just,
both.
Well,
need,
just-
you need a simple majority, but it has to be affirmed every year through the term of the lease. Right? It has to be acted affirmatively on by town meeting, not just,
Do you have any questions for Diane?
No.
And you'll get a copy of that paper. Any questions?
Stop by my office.
Okay.
Any questions for the board?
No, my question is for DRA is what changed or how did they miss it since 2005?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
I think it's a valid question, but the other side of that is I don't know if the interpretation changed or if they just missed it. I'm not sure it really makes any difference at this point, other than if we're trying to poke somebody in the eye.
It doesn't,
And
it
generally, you don't want to poke DRA in the eye.
doesn't effectively change the overall budget anyway.
No,
It's just
all it does,
moving it from the operating to the warrant.
right.
But we have the opportunity to lose two vehicles that are functioning very well
Right.
in doing their job.
Well, we
For no,
We could just buy 3,000 buckets and people could put their own fires on, I suppose that's an option, right?
yeah.
Now, we have long-term bonds and notes for 7-Eleven. There's a motion been made and seconded to amend that to the new lower total. Are we ready to vote on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. We also need a motion for 4721 interest long-term bonds.
Right.
Uh,
The same thing has to be done. Is there a motion?
I will move that we adjust 4721 to remove the ambulance and rescue vehicle payment and to adjust the total for 2018 to $38,274.
I'll second. Any further discussion? And all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Are we all set on long-term bonds and notes and interest bonds and notes? Yes?
What,
I think so.
Chief, when was the fire station built?
2013 it was finished. It was started in 2000.
So we started making payments in 2013.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that a 10-year loan?
15.
15,
Construction loan.
so 28.
Next item to talk about on the agenda under budget review is the overall 2018 budget.
Yeah.
Yes?
Even if I just may add, what I'm looking for too, if you could, is a vote on the total today, so we can start including your vote in with that warrant article.
That would be page 16 here, correct?
Those are the totals, yeah.
3,728,655.
Let's see,
No, 3,741,000.
805, and you want to add, what, 500 to that you added
Plus
today?
the 500 we put in today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other, as we talk about warrant and revenue, there's nothing that will change this bottom line, correct?
Not that I know of.
Well, Karen, you're just interested in the selectmen's budget? Because that's,
Yeah.
But yes, please, and
Okay.
then we'll do budget committee tomorrow.
right.
I have on my page, with today's approval, the new Board of Selectmen budget total is $3,741,555. Is that right or wrong?
That's wrong.
That's wrong.
Yeah, that's wrong.
It's 3,742,305.
With the $500, yeah,
Right.
and 24 cents.
Yep.
Where'd the 24 cents come from?
One of Chief Thompson's quotes.
Jesus.
So
At 24 cents.
3,742.
42, 305 and 24 cents.
Don't we normally just round it off?
Is it in a payment? Is that what it is? Karen?
Well,
I don't know offhand, I'm not
No,
sure.
it's shift coverage.
it's,
Is that what it is?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Fire department.
fire department,
Police officers.
fire department salary and shift coverage is what's in here to the 24 cents.
Did I not round that to the?
Yeah.
Well, when you
Well,
bring
somebody
your
didn't
budget-
round it when he submitted it,
Yeah,
so
when
we
you bring
just
your budget
stamped it and
forward.
stamped them up.
Usually try to round them down or up, whichever way it has to go.
On page 16, I'll move the Selectmen's 2018 budget, operating budget request be 3,742,305.
And no sense.
Correct.
I'll second
It's
that.
just that's gonna screw up
Yeah.
for keeping.
Is there a second?
That's our second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
I don't know that at this, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but I'm not sure at this late date we can make that 24 cents go away without adjusting a lot of other lines.
I'll give you a quarter.
No, that's not the issue. I mean, you've got
Take
like-
it out.
Right.
There's like
Right.
7 or 8 lines that have
Uh,
got pennies.
Well, they're all in the fire department budget, so we can we'll do that.
You wanna do that? Clean it up?
Yeah.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So, but you got the initial motion on the table, and then we'll go to the other ones.
Yes.
So, I don't know if it's gonna work. Are you gonna-
So-
Do you think you can make the math work out exactly right there, William?
Well, maybe we should do those first, and then we'll have an exact number to work with. But, I mean, it's, if you want to leave it at 24 cents, that's fine. Either way, 6.
What is your,
Can we table this motion that we've got on the table for tabling? We overuse the word table?
If you want, I just thinking of it going to the budget committee tomorrow, that's all, I guess. Or an article, because you know what I mean, but whatever you think.
Well, or we can just leave it at 24 cents if that's.
Well,
My only
so moved.
philosophically.
So moved, 24 cents.
Philosophically, the issue I have with a budget that goes to pennies is it implies a level of precision and control that doesn't exist.
Correct.
And, you know, it's not like we spend it down to the last cent. What we got from you was a result of calculations that were done, and in dealing with them, we should have just adjusted it at that point. All your backup comes to those pennies, but the reality is, we're not gonna spend an exact number of pennies. If we're not quite right in the budget line, we're gonna go over that, but you know what? As long as it's within our total, it's no big deal. So it's not on you, it's on us.
Are we
We
ready?
Right, so
understand
it's,
Are we ready to vote?
we need to reduce the fire department budget by $1.24, and then we need to work on the police. If you want to do it that way.
that. Yeah,
that's-
yeah,
Let the budget committee do it that way.
all right.
You know,
So you modified your motion
Yes,
to
24
24%?
Yeah,
All right,
you know.
all right.
we'll do something. work.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Nice job.
Don't ever bring a budget here again with pennies.
Pennies in it.
No pennies.
So,
Should have learned that from previous years.
There you go.
under continued business, 2018 warrant, what needs to be finalized today?
You need to vote on a couple of things.
Yeah, I put some highlights
Okay.
in front of the ones.
Karen, we're all set on Article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What about 5? You have something highlighted.
That is just the budget committee vote that
That's
we'll
budget
revisit
committee.
tomorrow. So I think the
6,
first,
7, 9 is budget committee, might want to revisit that, right?
yeah, just 15, I
10.
think.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, begins there.
And this wording we have on page 3 of the draft is what DRA recommends.
That's correct.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. On the next page, 4, new article needed for selectmen to vote on, Article 16.
I will move.
Do you want to read it into the record?
Hmm?
Do you want to read it into the record?
Yeah, go ahead. Someone go ahead.
I will move an Article 16 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $318 to pay a third installment toward the ambulance vehicle and rescue truck acquired by a town meeting vote in March of 2016. The principal amount of $82,843 and the interest is $6,475. This lease agreement contains an escape clause.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Under discussion, this is required by DRA, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, are we all ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Can I ask a question about,
Can they make a decision to pay off the lease?
A town meeting?
At the town meeting?
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
They'd have to have the number though, because they have to make a specific request. So we need to,
And then the next one, we need to do exactly the same thing, correct?
What next one?
the total budget.
Final budget number?
We just need to tell her what the total budget number is.
Right.
And I don't think you voted on that, to be specific, I don't think you voted on this warrant article yet because we didn't know the amounts.
Right, but we did vote on the amount,
That's true. Yep, that's true.
which we had calculated. And we argued about it.
Well, and we can't vote on 17 yet because the budget committee hasn't come up with their number, right? The number that we have from the budget committee is without some items that we've requested additions to, so there is no budget committee number.
Well, we can, yeah, but we can include the selectmen number.
Yes, but
Just
the article includes
Two
both,
numbers, right.
You make a
so,
good point. I wonder if we just put the selectmen recommend, I'll check, but the selectmen recommended amount, I think, and then the budget committee vote. I don't think the selectmen vote. I'll check.
We just voted on $3,742,305.24.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to vote to have.
Do we need to vote it again?
Warrant article.
I don't think so. I will verify for you.
all I'm submitting is that we can't vote on Article 17 until we have final action by the budget committee, because that's their number goes in that as well.
We all set? Karen, you all set with us on this page?
Yes, thank you.
You're all set with us.
And everything in the warrant's fine, the article order, everything's good, right?
There will be another article coming from planning board, but that goes
On the ballot,
after
right?
Article 1.
That gets voted on.
It gets
by
voted on
secret
voting
ballot.
day, that's correct, but it is a separate article that will show up before the town meeting articles.
Okay. But the order will bump a little. Okay.
So, yeah, it will.
Next is, under continued business, is 2018 revenue.
Just confirming we have it right and everything. I think we're good, but
So does this reflect the,
Which would be looking at 3,144,875. Is that what you're looking at? Okay.
right? But, we've got the items that we just moved from the operating budget to the article for the fire apparatus. Does that reflect that change?
I did ask about that, and where that's new funds to be raised and appropriated, it's different. It's not being taken from capital reserve or anything. Does that make sense? I did ask Diane about that, see if that makes any, because it wouldn't be included as a,
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah. some things were taken out of the unreserved fund balance, so they had to be on here, but, or capital reserves and whatnot.
Yeah, this is the,
And this gets reviewed after town meeting anyway, to reflect how town meeting votes.
Right, but what we're talking about is what we're gonna put on the MS 737 before the budget hearing. So I don't know how this is different from what we looked at last week, is my only question.
it's different in that we added $4,000 for the sale of the code enforcement truck,
Right.
an additional $400 from, or $600 from milfoil.
Oh, okay,
So those two things changed, and we also reduced the income below the 1176 by 50,000 because we took that out, that warrant article off the books. So we had talked about taking 50 grand out of undesignated fund.
right, right.
Bringing it into a
Oh,
different
for that
fund.
healthcare
Yep.
issue?
So that, you take it out of one side, you gotta take it out of the
Right.
revenue side
Yep.
as well. So I think this is exactly right, actually, but if you wanna review it, I'm fine with that too.
No changes then, right?
No.
Anything under continued business, Karen, you need to be brought up. You need to speak on.
I think I'm good, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to selectmen's updates. Go ahead.
Budget meeting tomorrow night.
You're primed and ready?
Excelsior, right? Yeah, I think it's fun. And I've looked at the implications on the taxes. I think it's all very manageable. We should be able to wrestle our tax rate to within where it is right now, or maybe 4 or 5 cents. People get scared of the big numbers sometimes, but they don't look at the big picture.
Mhm.
So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I can convince the one vote against the fire apparatus to change his mind, but I'm certainly gonna try.
There was also a couple, I'll vote against Jack's vehicle.
I think they did that because they thought the price was a little too high. I don't know that they think it's not worth trading.
Right.
And there was no reflection of the value.
Right.
And we may or may not trade the truck, and we may put it on the open market and sell it.
Exactly.
But we needed to put something on the revenue side, so the real net cost gets down into the low 20s, which is a
Sure.
reasonable number for
Yes.
replacement. It keeps it for 10 years, and 10 years is long enough.
I like your idea that maybe we ought to consider in the future 8 or 9 years. At what point is the diminishing returns? So,
Well, clearly, in the last year and a half, we've seen a fair amount more repair expense on that vehicle, which suggests that,
Yeah.
that an 8-year cycle may be more appropriate. But, you know, we can crank that into future planning.
any updates?
There was a, I don't remember the exact words, but a roundtable group on the drug issue that was scheduled for tomorrow up in Tamworth that I was gonna attend. Apparently, I had an email that it's been pushed off to March 6th. Something going on at the state government that is gonna impact some of this stuff, and the roundtable folks are like, well, there are so many questions that are unanswered at this point in terms of how we move forward next that they're pushing off for a month. So that's not gonna happen tomorrow. I think that's the only thing I have at this point.
All set?
Yeah.
Just current events to pass on to you. Larry Gill, on our Conservation Commission, and some people have been working very hard to work with Jim Beam and his beaver, and they've come back in the outlet on the lower part So, and he reports that there's a beaver problem in the waterway, and I offered to pass it on. Could you let Jim know that?
Mhm.
These were private citizens spoke to me, and were not adversarial, but it has to do with police enforcement of parking issues. Several residents have commented that there is an ongoing parking problem on Bay Road at the town beach on weekends. They also reported that there were issues when they were there a couple of weekends ago getting emergency crews to a medical aid call during a recent permitted event. They also pointed out that parked trucks with snowmobile trailers parked in the roadway. I've made 3 trips down there in the last 2 weekends, and they're just reporting the issues. Could you please share this with the police chief?
Mhm.
Notice that the chief gave us some statistics, annual statistics. Karen, do you have a copy of either January or December's hours from the police department?
No.
And please make that request. Thank you. Recently, I attended the Selectmen get-together, the Northern Lakes region, and we talked about catch basins, and we also talked about electrical energy. We signed a cooperative agreement, and on the last page, as I understand it, there's a column that indicates what our anticipated savings will be for this year. Am I representing it correctly, Bill?
Yeah, yep, yep.
And this is savings for,
Electricity.
I know, but just the town's
This is,
building.
this is, right, town accounts.
Not the town-wide
No,
electricity.
this is, we signed on with a third-party power supplier, and we are currently paying, I think it's about a penny and a half less than what the co-op charges for energy. Now, we still pay the transmission charge and the system. There are a number of charges in there that we pay to the co-op that are independent from what we pay for the power. But it reduced the amount that we're spending for power by about 1.7 cents. So the projection based upon past annual usage is that'll save us around $1,800–1,900 a year, which is in the neighborhood of 20%. Doesn't mean that our electric bill from the co-op is going down 20%. It just means that piece of it that's the energy charge is reducing by 20%. So it isn't huge money, but it is. It does represent a savings in this group, which is 16 towns and 6 school districts went into the cooperative buy, did it for a 1-year term. My understanding is that you do better on a longer term contract. When they did it this past year, the idea was, hey, let's try it for a year. Just like we do with a lot of things, you try it out, and if it works out well, if there are not too much heartburn, too many wrinkles associated with it, then you can, when it's up for renewal, you can go for a longer term, which locks in your power charge at a fixed rate for several years into the future, it replaces a varying rate, which tends to be higher in the wintertime with a fixed rate all year round. So again, $1,900 is the projection based upon past usage, and we'll track what's going on this year. It doesn't seem like huge money, but it's a little bit here, a little bit there.
And when people read in the paper that Moultonborough is saving $5,000 on their electricity, it's because they're using 3 times as much electricity as we are. The rate is the same for everybody. I mean,
Yes.
the city of Franklin's gonna save 39,000. The town of Moultonborough is gonna save
Now,
17, or the SAU's gonna save 17,000. But it's the amount of electricity used. We don't use it.
Volume, Justin.
some of the participants are on the co-op. Some of the participants are serviced by Eversource, the former PSNH. Those that are on Eversource save a lot more money because Eversource's electricity charge is a lot higher. So they save 46% as opposed to 21%. We all pay the same amount for our electricity. They've just been paying a lot more along the way than we have. But yeah, good point. They save more because they spend more than we do. And
Make it up in volume.
and those communities that are on Eversource, those communities on Eversource save a lot more because they could pay a much higher charge.
Well, it's like dieting. Every day we save a pound.
Yep.
Shed a pound. Anything else under Selectmen's update? Let's go on to correspondence. Our standard mileage rate is up for 2018. It's 54.5 cents for every mile. IRS, that's up 1 cent. Do we need to officially accept this by the Selectmen, or we just put it in effect?
I don't know, does our policy reflect that we reimburse at the IRS rate, or is it, does it reflect that we reimburse at a specific rate?
I can't remember, but I think it's the IRS, but I don't know for sure.
So,
Well, we need to have a policy, and we have to vote on a policy, or it becomes.
well,
Right.
so we've had a policy. The question is, and I don't have it in front of me, is our existing policy say that we reimburse at the IRS rate, in which case we don't need to change it. But if the existing policy says, for instance, we reimburse at 54 cents and we want to reimburse at the IRS rate, then we do need to change it. Is that something you can look into, Karen?
Yeah.
And so we'll put that on the, revisit that one next week.
This is from the Attorney General's office, and I'll read it into the record. This is reference State v. Andrew Garland, plea of guilty to death resulting. The New Hampshire Attorney General, Tufton Borough Police Department, Andy Shigori, DEA Special Agent in Charge, Delina, Manchester District Office, DEA, Colonel Wagner, New State Police, announced that Andrew Garland, age 22 of Effingham, pled guilty in Carroll County Superior Court to selling fentanyl that caused the death of Joshua Fournier, age 22 in Tufton Borough. Mr. Garland was sentenced to 12 to 24 years in New Hampshire State Prison. He is also sentenced to additional consecutive suspended prison terms for other drug crimes. On Thursday, September 29th of 2016, Mr. Fournier contacted Melissa Ford, age 28, via text message regarding the purchase of heroin. Mr. Fournier picked up Mrs. Ford and drove her to Effingham, where she met with Mr. Garland and purchased approximately 1/2 gram of heroin fentanyl mixture that she then gave to Mr. Fournier. Joshua Fournier was found dead early in the morning of September 30th of 2016. A subsequent investigation by the police departments and a search warrant executed at Mr. Garland's apartment on October 3rd, 2016 yielded approximately 66 grams of heroin fentanyl drug. Ms. Ford previously pled guilty to a death resulting charge in July of 2017 for her involvement in the death of Mr. Forney. This successful investigation and prosecution was the result of a joint investigation in collaboration by the Tuftonboro Police Department, the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, and the New Hampshire State Police with the assistance of the New Hampshire Department of Justice Drugs Prosecution Unit. Thank you to these agencies. Thank you, Chief Shigori.
And I can confirm for you that it's based on IRS. I looked it up in the personnel.
So
Okay.
that's already in place?
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so we don't have to act on it.
Right.
We do nothing.
Good.
We do the best.
We have activity from the police department for 2013 through 2017. Can I have a copy of that?
Mm-hmm.
This is from Spectrum Enterprise. Clay got a note or an email. Dear Clay, we were informed that the construction job at the transfer station will require an additional street pole to be added for this service. Unfortunately, street poles have longer intervals due to permits that are required and coordination with other providers. The construction estimated will be completed by 5:30 with their tasks. It's my understanding they put it up in 15 minutes the other day. So that's a good progress. We also have updates from Gina on planning ahead for lifeguard and swimming for 2018. It's a work in progress. The Lakes Region Planning Group, group pricing on catch basin cleaning. We also got an update from Lakes Region Planning on the culvert study. I guess there was a slight change in a sentence or two, and it's here. There's correspondence with the coalition communities. Probably when you were a selectman that was out of Portsmouth, talking about donor town tax or whatever they call it now. And we
1823 or
yeah,
whatever.
and we have two pieces of legislation. One is HB 1810. Did you folks read the letter? It came in.
I did, yeah.
Do we want to make
Join in.
we paid dues when it was out of Portsmouth for years. Do we still want
Oh,
to
you
do
were
that?
part of the lawsuit,
Yeah.
and I think this is gonna, if this passes, it'll end up being a lawsuit, because it effectively takes, we're talking about, I think it's a little over $1 million. It's gonna have to be made up in taxes, because the state's gonna keep it. Currently, what happens is the state portion of our tax bill goes to Concord and then comes back to our local school district.
Yes.
And what this bill proposes to do is keep it in Concord, and they'll distribute money however they feel like it. So it's gonna change the school tax portion of the tax bill. So we may be in a lawsuit with some other towns. I mean, it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah, I think that amount of money you talk about is over $900,000 we write a check for each year. They call it statewide real estate tax.
Right. Well, I thought the estimate was just over $1 million on this one, the estimates they gave us there, but yeah.
Can you read that, what the 1810 is?
This is,
Well, the relevant part.
either I give you a copy of it.
Well, I'm just thinking for people listening. I can look it up later, but
This is from Jane Ferrini, Ferrini. It was received last Friday. It's a follow-up on HB House Bill 1802, Coalition Communities. I attended a work session on HB 1802, two representatives noted that the issue of donor towns and the study committee, unfortunately, the chair of the committee, Norman Major, has made several comments during the hearing and in committee that they, quote, made a mistake, end quote, in the late 90s when the statute was drafted during discussions of the current practice of letting communities retain the excess SWEPT, S-W-E-P-T, capitalized. The chairman of any committee is very influential, and these comments could mean that he supports the bill. There's no way to know until there's a vote, but the coalition communities must take action now to have House Bill 1802 killed. The Ways and Means Committee will take up the bill again on Tuesday, February 6th. I know I have already asked you to reach out to your representatives and senators to have them personally contact the members of Ways and Means to voice their opposition to HB 1802 before the committee votes on the bill. I'm renewing that request and reminding these communities that have not done so to make their voices heard. I will report back to you after the session on Tuesday. They could continue to study the bill, form a subcommittee, or call for a vote on the bill. Okay?
Well, there's another bill that changes the formula.
That's different though.
That's
changing, whether it's per pupil or by real estate value.
rather than,
This is actually taking the money that's collected currently from SWEPT, statewide educational property tax.
Yes.
Excuse me, and regarding that, I'm not sure if I put it in there or not, I think I did. Carolyn used to be the rep for that coalition communities, and I was asked to ask who might, if someone from the board wants to be the rep for Tufton Borough, who would be in Carolyn's place.
Do we need to make that decision today?
No, I think we have to decide whether or not we're going to join the coalition.
That's step one, yes.
Okay, sounds good.
This is, please review the attached docking and parking ordinance and make any necessary changes. This was tabled the 29th. I have some things here, but I'd like to talk to have the police chief here. He seems to got knowledgeable. First of all, a great job, but I kind of would like the idea that this, there's several places here where it says refer to previous ordinances. I kind of like the way the planning board does it. They're talking about, pick a topic, mobile homes. They go through and you know what the old one was, the changes, and it allows the voters to make a cogent decision. I don't know if you folks want them to do the same thing or not. Okay? For the annual report, please continue to revise what you want written there. There's other correspondence, but it's no action needed. A lot of it is
Just been there.
okay. Do we only have one copy of road business?
I think so, yeah.
What I'd like to do is, when it's done or whatever, I'd like to take it for a week and read it. It has some good things there.
And may I ask, does the annual report submission fine with everybody, the way it's written?
I read it over and I thought it was
Everybody's
working
good?
very well. What do you folks think? I was happy with it.
I didn't read it,
Okay, if you don't mind.
but I will.
Okay.
Yeah, look it over.
We
Who wrote
have,
that?
what?
I think Lloyd wrote
I
it.
tried. But please make any changes,
Oh, really? They have an editorial review?
yes.
Nice.
This is just correspondence on different
Right.
matters. Please feel free to read. We have a non-public to do job performance reviews, but before we do, any other correspondence? Any other business?
Hold on, he's standing up.
Yep.
Ready to press the button?
Oh,
Okay.
he's ready for a
The
question.
chair needs a motion to go into non-public session for RSA 91A32, parentheses A, to work on performance reviews.
So move.
Second,
Wood, yes.
Marcus, and yes.
all be yes.
Okay. Why don't we take a stand and let Joe.
Thank you.
Seven
Thank
inning
you.
stretch.